Hello everyone, welcome to an academy. On this channel, Just CAT, which is dedicated to the preparation of CAT and other management exams, I welcome you all. My name is Neelam and I'm going to be your educator for CAT and other management exams. In today's session, we are going to focus on the strategy for SNAP, the exam which is going to happen this Sunday. For those of you who are taking the first attempt on 20th of December, must be having a lot of jitters because the pattern changed this year, and this year exam is going to be conducted for an hour. So it's going to be the test of your time management. So you have to have a strategy in place in order to maximize your score and stand a chance of getting admission into top 5 colleges of symbiosis. For that, you definitely need a very actionable strategy. So today's session is going to focus on that. All right. So let's go ahead and start with today's session. Before that, let me give you a brief introduction of myself and an academy. My name is Neelam Malkani, and I have been training students for CAT, GRE, GMAT, SAT, IELTS and TOEFL. I possess around 12 years of experience of test preparation industry and have trained students of various exams. My areas of expertise have been English and verbal reasoning. I have also designed and set assessment papers of English for English and reasoning for various competitive exams. I did this for those professional bodies which were administering the test. For a brief period of time, I also served as an examiner of English for an international organization. Recently, I have authored a comprehensive book of English for the preparation of competitive exams. The book is written in both Hindi and English and is available on Amazon. This video is brought to you by an academy. Let me take you to its portal and tell you how you can be part of this. So first step is going to be the installation of an academy learning app. When you go in the Play Store of your mobile phone, you will see learning app of an academy. Please install that. Once you fill in all the details and go further, you will see 3 major offerings, plus free courses, special classes. After you have this app in your mobile phone, you can attend all the classes coming under free courses and special classes. All educators who take plus classes also deliver classes under free classes and special classes. So you can have access to these educators' classes. All you have to do is type code Neelam to unlock these sessions for you. Once you type this code, you can attend as many classes as possible for you. You don't have to pay anything for attending these free courses and special classes. But if you want to subscribe to a dedicated course for CAT preparation, you will have to subscribe to the product plus. When you go further, you will be shown all the features that you will be availing when you will subscribe the course. Features such as 30 hours of live sessions every day. So it's not a very regimental program that you have to attend classes on a specific time. As per your availability and as per your suitable time, you can choose the time of your sessions. You can also choose the educator who you like to be taught by. So different educators who have extensive experience of their own domain, of their own sphere, have been taking classes on an academy. These educators have wealth of experience of mentoring and guiding students. You see, every month a new course being launched on an academy. A course which caters to the demand of a specific exam, so that none of your requirement is unfulfilled. And the courses which are delivered by these faculty members are well structured and well designed, having fine balance of conceptual clarity, exercises and quizzes, so that you are prepared well for the targeted exam. All right. So these all features in single subscription. When you decide to go for the subscription, you will be shown different models of subscription which have been devised by an academy to suit your specific needs for the preparation. If you are going for all those exams which are happening this month or coming month in January, you can go for 1 month's crash course. For that, you will have to pay 3,500 rupees. But if you're preparing for CAT 2021, you will have to subscribe to the yearly subscription. That is going to cost you 17,500 rupees. Now, whichever fee structure you choose to go with, if you type code Neelam, that is going to give you 10% further discount. With that referral code, your fee is going to come down to 3,150 for a month and 15,750 for entire year. So that is best in the industry and very economical. All right. So don't waste any time any further. Go in your Play Store of your mobile phone, subscribe to this or install this app first, attend some classes, see the quality of educators, see the quality of your classes. If you are contented, go ahead with plus subscription. All right. So let's start with today's session, SNAP strategy. Let me just quickly see if I am online or if I am live today so that I can answer your queries if you have any. All right. Fine. So let's start with the pattern of SNAP first so that we have some clarity about what we are going to face day after tomorrow. So there are going to be 3 sections. 15 questions will be from verbal ability. Now SNAP verbal ability is going to be a mixed composition of all varieties of questions of English. Verbal reasoning, reading comprehension, general English and verbal ability, right? So under this section, SNAP actually gives you all varieties of questions, right? So in all the classes which I took dedicated to SNAP preparation, I gave you the orientation to all the kinds of questions. We also had a discussion of SNAP 2018 papers, right? So you better have your strategy focused on all these areas. So you must have figured out by now, after taking multiple mocks, that which part you are good at. You are good at RC or your vocabulary and grammar is your strength, right? So I hope you have kept that thing in your mind because only 15 questions are going to be there this year. The weightage of verbal ability is reduced. So you will have to see which section you will focus on in verbal ability, right? By now, you must have discovered your strength in verbal ability. AR and LR has 25 questions. So this has been a predominant area in SNAP this year also. It has been given highest number of questions. 25 questions is going to be from AR and LR, followed by 20 questions from quantitative ability, or quantitative reasoning, right? So all the questions will carry 1 mark, total 60 marks, 60 questions to be done in 60 minutes, right? So the entire algorithm is very clear. 60 minutes, 60 marks, 60 questions. Now let's try to understand some more dynamics of the test this year. As I said, the time is going to be one hour. That's going to be 60 minutes. So you are allowed this year to have 2 attempts. For admission to Symbiosis, you can have 2 attempts and the best score is going to be considered. So those of you who are going to take on 20th of December can also take exam one more time, either on 6th of January or 9th of January, right? 4 options. So SNAP has traditionally been giving 4 options in the test. 25% is going to be the negative marking. So if you get one question incorrect or one incorrect answer, 0.25 deduction will happen, right? Sectional freedom. So unlike CAT, you are allowed to choose a section which you want your test to begin with. So if you are good at quant, you can start your test with quant, or if you feel the logical reasoning, since this is a section which is given the highest weightage, you should begin your test with this section. You can choose that, right? So sectional freedom is there. You can go in the option of seeing the question paper. You can scan the paper quickly and see which section you want to start with. Do take advantage of this feature. Take a good look at the paper. Spend 2 minutes time at the beginning of your test. Take a good look at the paper. See which section you want to start with and then go ahead. No sectional cutoff. So that is what is the highest, possibly one of the most attractive features of SNAP. Those students who are not very good at verbal, and verbal has been their weak point or weak area, they consider they consider this exam as their the biggest way to get into a good B school, because there is a no section cutoff, right? So symbiosis colleges are not going to look at your section cutoff, your overall cutoff that is inclusive of the performance of all the sections will be considered. So as long as you have been able to clear the overall cutoff, you stand a chance of getting shortlisted, right? So that's how this whole thing works. Though there are some misconception about SMHRD and SIBM Pune, both the colleges, top two colleges of symbiosis, that they do look into your section cutoff, but it has not been officially confirmed, right? So it is clear that there is not going to be any section cutoff. There is no differential marking, unlike previous year papers of SNAP and last year paper of SNAP, when there was a differential marking for verbal and LR. This year, every question is going to carry similar marking, equal weightage. So you don't have to worry about spending more time on a specific question, right? So the features are sectional freedom is there, no section cutoff is there, no differential marking is there, right? Now let's start with LR, because this is the section which is going to be given the highest weightage. So I would recommend, we are going to have the discussion of two strategies, right? So whichever strategy works your way or whichever strategy works in your favor, you can go with our strategy. But this is going to be a recommended technique to attempt this paper more efficiently. LR, since 42% of your paper is going to come from this section, come what may, you have to focus on this, right? And now this section is also very important because it gives you a mixed bag of questions. So those of you who are not very good at quant will have reasoning based question or reading based questions, right? So logical reasoning and reading based questions. Those of you who are not very good at quantitative ability will do very well in that section, right? So try to ascertain which area of reasoning suits your ability or suits your capability level. With that, you can choose those questions which you can do with higher accuracy, right? Because LR section gives you all varieties of reasoning questions. You name a question, you will find that in SNAP papers, previous year papers. So SNAP is actually open to all varieties of reasoning based question, right? So you have visual reasoning, yes, visual reasoning question which comes in Maharashtra TET, also appears in SNAP. You have all varieties of logical reasoning question. You name a topic, that will be there. I have just compiled a list of those topics. So decoding, mathematical reasoning. So those a graph will be there, and you will have to decode blood relationship, direction sense, verbal reasoning. Verbal reasoning will be inclusive of those small sentences where you have to find the argument, strong argument, weak argument. You have to find the conclusion, you have to find assumption, you have to find right course of action, right? So this is verbal reasoning based on reading. Paragraph-based reasoning will also be there. Sitting arrangement, reasoning. Syllogism, logical consistency, meaningful word metrics, right? So from anagram, you will have to find a meaningful word. Clocks and calendar, visual reasoning, cause and effect, critical reasoning, as I said. Analogies, yes, analogy will also coming in LR section. So analogy, one part will be there in your English where two words will be given and you will have to find the relationship. Here analogies of different kind will be there, right? So student in a class, so what is a relationship, right? Or judge in a courtroom, what is a relationship? Judge and a gavel. Now what is a relationship, right? So that way some logical connection between words has to be figured, and accordingly the answer has to be found out. Series and puzzles, right? So every kind of reasoning you have in LR and AR section. So it gives you kind of leeway to choose the question as per your capability. If you're not very good at calculation, leave mathematical reasoning, do other questions. If you're not very good at verbal reasoning, you leave those questions, do those questions which are calculation intensive and based on logical reasoning, right? Since it gives you so many varieties or so many varieties of question, it becomes easier for you to choose your questions, right? So One, 42% weightage is given to this section, so you cannot ignore it. Second, most of the aspirants are good at logical reasoning, right? So DI may be a weak area of a lot of students, but logical reasoning is something which most of the students are good at, right? So they find it challenging, they might find it mentally stimulating because you have a puzzle before you. So I would advise that you begin with this section because you are going to spend most time on this section. This section is going to demand highest amount of your time, right? So I would advise you begin with this section and choose the question of your comfort area. Don't choose the question which you like doing but is time consuming. All right? So you like coding and decoding, but the question is very deceptive or the question is very, convoluted. Leave that question. You like doing that kind of question, but leave it because you are not going to get higher marking for that. Ultimately, that's going to reward you 1 mark. That 1 mark you have to get from a question which you can do in less time, right? So be very calculative in choosing your questions. Leave puzzles. If puzzle is something which you like doing, here you have to do the question, you have to choose the questions which you can do in 1 minute. All right, because 1 hour is the time. That means you have to calculate your time very wisely. All right, so if you are lost in a puzzle halfway, if you're not able to fetch your answer, that is definitely going to build in frustration, and halfway you may have this desire to leave the puzzle in between, right? And that is again going to go in waste, because if you are going to put it for review, then again you would want to come back to that half puzzle, right? So if puzzle is there and you have a liking for puzzle, but leave it there if it is time consuming. All right, so choose the question very wisely. So that is what the main point is. And an attempt of 18 to 20 questions if you are good at LR. So this is a range for those who have LR as their strength, right? But for SNAP, this is something that you have to build up as your strength for an exam like SNAP, which has very much inclination for LR. So 18 to 20 questions from this section, and for this section you can easily spend 20 to 25 minutes. So your highest time should be devoted to this section. All right, out of 60 minutes, 25 minutes to attempt 20 questions. I'll take the highest level in both, 20 questions in 25 minutes. So that means you have to choose the question which can be done quickly. All right, so this has to be a strategy for LR, and for this section you have to have enough practice. If you are taking exam in January, please try to build this section as your strategy. Do as many questions of logical reasoning in AR as possible. Previous year papers are definitely your source, but pick up any good book, any authentic book of reasoning and solve as many questions on sitting arrangement and coding, decoding. Try to build your strength on at least 10 topics of LR, right? So for those of you who are taking it on 20th, on Sunday, this should be the strategy, right? Let's now talk about verbal ability. Now I'll give you this latitude to choose second section as verbal ability or quantitative ability, depending on what you like doing, right? So if you want to alter your strategy, like, for logical reasoning, you would definitely require that calculation side, right? You would have spent a lot of time, 25 minutes, on doing some kind of calculations, doing some kind of arrangements, right? So you spent that much time and energy on that. Do you want to do that continuously for next 20 minutes more, or you want to break it with doing something different and then come back to calculation, right? So which strategy works for you? Accordingly, you should choose whether you want to take verbal ability as your second section or quantitative ability as your second section. I would advise you take a break of 10 minutes here and then you come back to quant. So that way your mind is also going to rejuvenate it. Verbal ability will have 15 questions. So the section has been given 22% weightage, least weightage, right? So for those of you who have been complaining that verbal ability is their weakness and they have not been scoring well or they have not been able to clear session cutoff because of verbal ability, now this exam is going to be a game changer for all of you, right? So as long as you are able to do at least 5 to 7 question correct from verbal ability of SNAP, right? Or maximum if you are good at, or if you are decent at verbal ability, 10 questions. You are good to go, right? So for those of you who are not very good at verbal and English, this exam possibly is going to be the best exam for you. Now how? 15 questions only. Next is, SNAP has kind of, obsession for vocabulary and grammar, right? So both these sections are extensively covered in SNAP. You will find at least last year when we discussed 2018 paper. So there were around 40 questions from vocabulary. Such is the importance of vocabulary. And vocabulary questions are not very time consuming unless it is FIB, filling the blank, where you have to read, absorb information, eliminate the word, and then come up with your answer. FIB is time consuming. Rest of the questions of vocabulary are not quite time consuming. So if you have worked on your vocabulary, built up vocabulary, and done enough exercises based on words, you will be in a fairly good position to do well in SNAP, right? So I assume out of 15 questions, there will be at least 5 questions based on vocabulary, right? And that too will be based on synonyms, antonyms, analogies, and FIP. These 4 questions which have been conventionally part of SNAP. Synonym and antonym, very easy to figure it out. If you know the word, you know the meaning, you know the synonym, right? So it hardly takes you 30 seconds to figure out whether the word is synonym or not, or you know the meaning of the word or not. You move on, right? Synonym and antonym are those questions which you have got to do. Second, analogies, right? Analogies questions are very easy to do for SNAP. In ZAT, they give you implied relationship. In IFT, they give you some, complicated relationship. Sometimes the worker relationship, connotation relationship, or other relationships. SNAP gives you either antonym or synonym, right? So traditionally, it has not created those options which are very confusing in analogies. So second set of question that you should do is analogies, right? Filling the blank, again, time consuming. You can skip that one unless you read sentence and you understand this is the word which is appropriately fitting in the context. You should leave that if you are not very good at verbal, right? So that way vocabulary questions are done. Second, grammar. Grammar, FIB, one sentence is there, one word is to be filled in, preposition is to be filled in, article is to be filled in, or correct form of helping verb is to be filled in. Very easy. Read that sentence aloud. When you read it aloud, so there is a sync between what you say and what you hear. So if you have been hearing correct English, if you have been listening to good speakers, you will instantly figure out that this is the error. This has to be has and have is incorrect, right? So read it aloud. Say these sentences aloud in your mind as well as vocalize those sentences. Invariably, you will be able to figure out what error this has or what word is to be filled in that FIB. Do grammar, right? Grammar questions will be very easy to find out, very easy to solve. 2 ways basically the grammar has been given in SNAP. Filling the blank or correct or incorrect sentences, right? So filling the blank, very easy to do. Correct and incorrect sentence will take some time, but as long as you are clear with the concept, you will be through with that question as well, right? So as I have been saying in this time slot, ever since I started taking classes for SNAP, I have been saying grammar, some topics, tenses, subject-verb agreement, preposition, conditionals. These topics very favorite of SNAP, and punctuation, right? So if you are taking it on in January, if you are not taking it on 20th of December, if you are taking it in January, or if you are planning second attempt, please brush up these concepts, right? So second topic that you have to attempt is grammar. So out of 5 questions, out of 15 questions, I assume 4 questions will be from grammar only, right? So 4 and 5, so that means 9 questions from vocabulary and grammar. Very easy to do questions and very time consuming, less time consuming, right? So that means these 10 questions or 9 to 10 questions can be done in 6 to 7 minutes. All right, 6 to 7 minutes. Now see if you are good at RC. Now the best part about SNAP is RC is not very lengthy and the questions are very easy to fetch. The passage is not very dense. Even if the subject is tough, the passage is not written in a dense language. Right? So last year, the passage was based on a tough subject, computer algorithm. But it was written in a very easy, lucid language. Easy to read, easy to absorb. Right? So this has been a trend of SNAP. It does not puzzle you much. Right? So now, if you are very weak in verbal, do with vocabulary, grammar, and 7 minutes, more than enough. If you are good at verbal ability, go for passage as well. Look at the questions and then approach the passage. This strategy will definitely work in SNAP passage. Look at the question. 3 question, 4 question, 5 question. 1 will be parajumble possibly and 4 question will be on passage. Look at the questions first and then see if you have to read the passage, right? And if you don't have to read the passage, go to the part where you want to, where you feel is the answer. Read first paragraph carefully so that you understand what is this whole passage about and then eventually be led by the questions. 10 minutes, maximum 12 minutes, right? Not more than 12 minutes for 15 questions. 12 minutes only if you are attempting passage. 7 minutes, 8 minutes if you are attempting grammar and vocabulary, right? So that is the strategy for verbal, right? So least weightage, 15 questions only. So identify those questions that can be done quickly. Grammar and vocabulary are those questions which you can do quickly, all right? Okay, before that, let me talk about quant as well. The quant will have 20 questions, all right? And now, traditionally, quant has been in easy to moderate level difficulty, except some years where quant really startled applicants. Quant has been kind of a breather for SNAP aspirants or SNAP applicants. But last year, it was very tough. So those students who started with quant because they prepare for CAT and the CAT quantitative ability and reasoning ability give them enough confidence to nail SNAP, and because of this complacency only they started with quantitative ability. But it was very tricky. It was very convoluted section, and a lot of those students in a midway felt that they should have started with other section, and there they built that strategy. In midway, after a while, they realized they should have started with verbal or they should have started with LR. They went back to these section and then started, whereas they wasted a lot of time. So here, that is why I am not asking you to start with your strategy. Start with your strong area. You don't have to start with your strong area here because you have to go as per the paper pattern. The paper is giving advantage to LR. The paper is giving highest weightage to LR. So you have nothing but to go with this strategy which this paper supports. So quantitative ability, 20 questions. Now, if you feel you are very good at quant, nonetheless, I would advise you keep it as the second section or the third section. All right. So as I said, LR has always been given advantage by SNAP. There used to be differential marking for LR question. LR question used to carry double marking than other section questions, right? So start with LR, keep quant as second or third section, right? So I leave it on you that you want to keep it as a third part or you want to keep it as second part. If you want to give a break to your calculation, to your mind for calculation and for that logical ability, and you want to focus on verbal, then second section should be verbal. Otherwise, you can keep the second section as quant, right? So it was difficult. Last year it was difficult, and it actually perplexed a lot of students, even those students who are very good at quant. Now here, your strategy has to be whichever level of difficulty quant is, you have to pick up those questions which you can do quickly. So arithmetic should be one of those areas, right? So those topics which fall into this category or fall into this topic, I hope you have practiced them enough. I hope you have built your confidence about these topics, because they will also be there in SNAP, and these questions are not very time consuming. So pick up those questions which can be done quickly, which you can solve with accuracy in a very short amount of time. And leave time consuming question, even if it falls from the topic that you like, right? So if there is a topic from algebra, or if there is a question from algebra, or if there is a question from geometry, right? If that is your favorite topic, don't feel that don't have the desire to attempt that question if it is time consuming. Ultimately, you have to be wise with the time, right? So here, leave those questions which are time consuming and calculation intensive. Ultimately, you have to keep the track of time. No more than 20 minutes on this section, all right? So 25 minutes logical reasoning, 20 questions on 20 minutes on quantitative ability, and 10 to 12 minutes on verbal, right? So that leaves you with some buffer time at the end to go back in the paper to see those questions that you have kept for review, right? Because if you allocate perfect time to each section, you may feel panicky at the end of the paper, towards the end of the paper, because you have marked some questions for review. And each section, especially in LR, where you make that calculation, you're not able to come to the answer. You may have this desire to do puzzle, though I'm asking you not to do, but you may have that, feeling that you should do puzzle, and when you invest your time, 3 questions are going to be correct. So that way, if you do that, so that your mind, which has already invested time and energy on that question, you may feel that you should go back to that question and do it. So last 5 minutes you should always leave for some buffer time, right? So buffer time to look at those questions that you have kept for the review. All right, so that is why I'm suggesting that you spend 10 minutes on verbal ability, 20 minutes on quantitative ability, 25 minutes on logical reasoning, right? So that way you are left with last 5 minutes to see what you want to review. Now another strategy that you can do with is, so you start with LR only, right? So that is something which you should continue, but instead of spending 25 minutes, you can spend half the time on LR, right? So half the time on LR, because you feel LR is your forte and you feel that you have practiced enough of LR questions probably coming in SNAP, right? So half the time you can spend on LR. In that, you have to do 22 to 23 questions with at least 85% accuracy. If you are sure about 85% accuracy, you should definitely go with this strategy, 85 to 90% accuracy. Some of you may have LR as your strength. Since this section is given highest importance, you can definitely give 30 minutes to this section. Now rest 30 minutes have to be divided 20 minutes again with quant. Same way, you have to attempt 15 to 16 questions which are easy to do, and 5 minutes on verbal, quant verbal, in which you should attempt questions on verbal of vocabulary and grammar, so that you can easily attempt 6 to 7 questions in 5 minutes. Last 5 minutes again, you want to go back to those questions which you have kept for the review. So this is alternative strategy. Now this strategy is workable only if you have great command on logical reasoning and analytical reasoning, right? So if you are good at all the varieties of logical reasoning question, you are good at quantitative reasoning, you are good at analytical reasoning, you are good at logical reasoning, and you are good at verbal reasoning, all these varieties of reasoning, you should definitely spend 30 minutes, half the time on this set of in this section. All right, and then quantitative ability 15 to 16 questions to be done in 20 minutes. All right, so this is alternative strategy. Now very quickly, let's look at reading comprehension. As I said, questions are not difficult, passages are not difficult. Even if The subject is difficult, the passage will be written in a very easy language. So look at questions. Filling the blanks, synonym, antonym, analogies, proverbs and idioms, sentence correction. Idioms and proverbs. So sometimes they ask you to find the meaning of the idiom, sometimes they ask you to complete the idiom. The idiom is not complete, right? So whichever way, I hope you have worked on your idiom. If not, then please look at a list of idiomatic expressions which is there readily available on internet, and please solve some exercises on idioms. It's again a very favorite topic of SNAP. Some topics which have consistently coming in SNAP: narration, direct and indirect. So if you know the concept, it's very easy for you to do this question. You just know the answer in your head. As in when you read this and change the speech, I have won the race. You know what you are looking for, right? So you are changing the sentence for past. So I have won the race. So it has to go into past tense, add, right? So you know the answer in your head. You just have to scan and mark your answer. Alright, so this kind of question are not supposed to be skipped. As long as you are through with the concept, you can easily pick up and solve these questions. Figure of speech, one more topic which is favorite to SNAP, IIFT and Z. All these exams focus on this. I have taken a session on this topic in special classes in which I covered all the figures of speech, simile, metaphor, personification. Though for an exam like SNAP, you can confine to basic figures of speech, right? So simile, hyperbole, and this was one of these SNAP questions, right? So the repetition of message or the use of superfluous expression is called. So this was redundancy. So this is figures of speech, right? So be through with the definition of figures of speech. Every year it comes. Confusing words to be filled in the sentence. So many Tamil speaking Sri Lankan fled from the island to escape the military and its atrocities. So you know the sentence is in past and flee second from is fled. You don't have to even look at the option because in your mind you know what you need to complete the sentence, right? Very easy questions. Now these are the questions that you can skip. Time consuming. If you're not giving 10 minutes to verbal, you should miss these questions. This question is not more marked, is not carrying higher marking. You should skip this question, right? Now quickly, some tips. Make sure you go through your vocabulary list. For verbal ability, you have to focus on vocabulary. As I said, last 2018, 14 questions were for vocabulary. So make sure you go through your vocabulary list. Normal Lewis, if you can go through those words which come in Normal Lewis or which are there in Normal Lewis, you will be in the safest position because I have seen that examiners of SNAP pick up this book. They give directly questions, pick up words from this book, right? In those sessions which I took on YouTube for SNAP, I gave you the example of those questions which are directly taken from Normal Lewis. If you can go through that, nothing better than that. Revise grammar rules, especially of those topics that I named. Revise important confusing words and idiom. That is again a very favorite topic of SNAP. Revise them. Do enough practice of AR and LR, right? So this is the section which is given highest importance. So you better practice enough of AR questions, LR question, verbal reasoning question and quantitative reasoning questions, right? So that's all about the strategy for SNAP. Wish you all the best for your exam on Sunday. Do let us know your feedback and how our classes and our tips and the strategy help you in figuring out your way to deal with the exam. And do let us know if you want us to prepare, if you want us to help you with your preparation for SNAP for your second attempt and sixth or your first attempt in January, and what topics you want us to cover. All right. Thank you very much for watching. All the best for the exam.